Hey WL7 users, Glitch here. Today we're going to talk about what's new in WL7 Build 29. So let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is a new class that we added to the WL core library. I'm going to click my quick ref view here and then select Heikin-Ashi. So this Heikin-Ashi class is a converter. It takes a bar history instance and converts it into a Heikin-Ashi chart. It has one method here, convert. If I click on here, I get the information on its convert method. Here's a link to the Wikipedia entry on Heikin-Ashi. It explains that Heikin-Ashi is a Japanese trading indicator that takes an average of price movement. So with that in mind, our Heikin-Ashi converter will take a source bar history, apply the averaging of the Heikin-Ashi, and output a new bar history with those transformations. So as always with the quick ref, we can click the example code button to open up this example in a new strategy window and have it automatically execute. So here it took my SPY chart as input. We can take a quick look at the code here. All I'm doing is in the initialize method, I am using the Heikin-Ashi.convert to convert the bar history from the initialize method. The result is a new bar history, which I'm calling HK, and then I'm using the plot bar history to plot that on the chart here. So as I change symbols, it will automatically construct the Heikin-Ashi chart for whatever symbol that I'm bringing in here. So you could have always done this simply using our built-in Heikin-Ashi chart style. However, the new capability here is you actually have the Heikin-Ashi data in a bar history variable now, in case you want to use it or manipulate it or leverage it somehow in your strategy code. So there's the Heikin-Ashi converter class. So now that that's in place, we added some support for Heikin-Ashi in our Candlestick extension. So let's take a look at, first of all, the building blocks here in WL7. There's a new Candlestick building block, Heikin-Ashi candle. So if I go ahead and create a new building block strategy, you can do things like drag this building block over. So I want to buy, let's say I want to buy when the Heikin-Ashi changes from black to white. So the current bar will be white, and then I'll drag it over here again. And in order to get the previous bar being black, I'll add one of our qualifiers. So a qualifier can be dropped onto any condition. Here's our qualifiers down here. These things really bump up the flexibility of our building block strategies. So let me drag our N bars ago. So now what I have is a buy entry with two conditions. So the current Heikin-Ashi candle must be white, and then the previous one will be black. So there you go. There's the new Heikin-Ashi candle condition in the Candlesticks extension. So there's also a new candlestick gene for the candlestick genetic evolver. Let's open up our candlestick genetic evolver. So this tool will generate and mutate random candlestick patterns based on a set of genes. And now in this newest build, the genes are exposed here for you in this tab. So these are kind of all of the genes that this genetic algorithm can work with, including this new one, a Heikin-Ashi body. Another nice new feature of this gene roster is you can selectively turn off certain genes. So if you're a purist and you want to run and evolve some candlestick patterns that stick to the traditional candlestick role, you might, for example, disable this consecutive up-down and RSI. These were some genes that I added because I wanted to see the effect and see what kind of profitable patterns could develop using them, but they're strictly not candlestick patterns in and of themselves, so you may want to disable them. So if we go now here to the Evolver tab, we set up our data range and data source. So let's just go ahead and start evolving. And here we go. We're starting to evolve some random candlestick patterns with our target that we're looking for is bullish patterns. So you can evolve for bullish, bearish, or the next candle being a white or a black candle. So at any point you could stop this and then kind of click on your top generated pattern. This one happens to be the most recent candle, has a neutral trend. The previous had a gap down at open, and the candle before that was a light volume Heikin-Ashi black bar. So when this pattern in the test data, whenever it was encountered, the average 5-bar return was 4%. So that's compared to the average 5-bar return of the overall market for that data was 0.38%. So you can even double click here and take a look at the patterns on the chart. You can use this little scroller to, quickly identify the patterns. So there you go. The Heikin-Ashi support now in WL7 kicked up to a new level. So the next feature that we added is another new kind of helper class. Let's go back to the quick ref and select StrategyRunner. So StrategyRunner is a class that simplifies the ability to run back tests in WealthLab. This was always possible, if you kind of knew your way around the admittedly, somewhat less documented areas of the framework. It was possible to run a back test and obtain the results even within C# strategy code. So the primary target for this would be within a WealthLab extension. However, as you'll see, it's also possible within a strategy. So this new class StrategyRunner has a run back test method. So the run back test method takes all of these properties that you've previously set, for example, the source data, the position size, the data range, and it will perform a back test using a named strategy or an instance of a user strategy class that you may have compiled, through whatever method previously. So let's take a look at one of the examples here. Let's see. I think the scale example is interesting here. So if I open up this scale example, it will run. And let's take a quick look at the code here before we look at the result. So we're creating an instance of the StrategyRunner. We're getting the first symbol and our backtest data. So what we're going to do is we're going to take whatever the first symbol in our data set is. We're going to add it to the symbols of the StrategyRunner that we created. Then we're going to run a backtest on this strategy called RSI Agita. It's in the samples strategies here, RSI Agita. So you could run a backtest on any named strategy. Then we're going to write to the debug window the net profit and the position count using the backtester instance that is returned from run backtest. After we're done with that, we're going to change the scale of the strategy runner to weekly, and we're going to run the same backtest again and look at the results. So having done that, let's look at our debug log. So it's telling us the RSI agita ran on the daily scale for SPY. This was the net profit with 9 trades. Then it ran on the weekly scale for this profit and 1 trade. So there you have it, the strategy runner class. This was in response to one of the feature requests on our forum to allow running strategies and charts from code. So the chart part of that feature request is the next thing I want to talk about quickly here. All right, so I've switched over to the wealthlab.com website, and I'm going to click here, support, and then extension API. So this is our documentation for our API for those of you who want to build WL7 extensions of your own. We have a new document here, a chart components. So this gives you the basics of using the chart that comes with WL7. It's in an assembly called wealthlab.chart.wpf. This shows you how to use that in your extension. And the most important thing here is we have a new GitHub project, a public extension demo project. So click this link to go to the extension demo project. You can clone that project, see a working example of how to use the chart in your extension. And let's take a quick look at that example. I have it running here in my WL7 under extensions, demo extension. So there are currently 2 tabs. One is a 4-tiled chart where if you type in a symbol, it will show you the same symbol in a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly scale, dynamically tiled. The second tab lets you bring in a chart and then apply an indicator to it. So, I mean, of course, nothing particularly new or exciting, but the interesting part here is that through the GitHub repo, you can now look at the code for all of this and see how it was accomplished in this demo extension. So that's it for build 29. There's quite a bit more in build 29 in terms of miscellaneous fixes and minor features. So take a look. Hope you enjoy, and see you on the forums.